All right. Well, it says we have viewers, so I imagine we're on the air. Hello, Tom Corliss here. We did this last month, and now this month we're back to do another one of these things because I went to another place. Yes, the last 2 months have been kind of crazy, but you may remember in April, went for the first time to Tokyo Disneyland, Tokyo Disney Resort. And then in May, happened to go for the very first time ever, just last week. I guess it was last week already. Went to Disneyland Paris, which is now the name of that resort. It used to be Disneyland Resort Paris. That's apparently now incorrect. So Disneyland Paris, the name of the whole thing, the two-park and multi-resort hotel complex that was Euro Disney when it opened back in 1992. And this was my first trip there. So the same way we did Tokyo, we're going to be doing this, talking a little bit about first impressions and what I thought, and maybe some insights on Disneyland Paris. And the same as that show, there is this video program, which will be great because eventually I'm going to share screen, and I have a whole ton of photos that I took while I was there, and we'll talk through some stuff with some visual aid. And then, of course, also, just as we did with the Tokyo show, it could also be released as an audio show, which will be on the podcast. So whether you're listening in audio form or video form, we thank you for listening. And if you're listening in audio form, go find this on YouTube if you'd prefer to see photos or video of what I'm actually talking about. I will have some help from Jason eventually to monitor the chat because I do have a lot of stuff to go through. But we're also obviously going to try and monitor the chat and take questions and stuff from all of you. And if we don't get to them in the course of the show, those of you who are WIGS members, we actually have a post show coming up just for you after all this, where you guys have some time to just ask questions and things like that. Some private half hour just for you guys. So anyway, why don't we go to get started? I'm going to try and share my screen, and we'll go to the photos, and we'll start talking through this stuff. Nice lower third graphic. Someone wrote tonight. Yeah, no, we still don't do that show. Still not a thing. Let's do this screen share thing. Oh, that's crazy because there we go. Okay. So we went all the way across the ocean, and I left from New York. So what's the first thing I do after leaving from New York? Go to the Hotel New York. Of course, that has to be the very first place we went in Disneyland Paris. I didn't have enough of New York. And this is interesting because this is going away. This is going to be Hotel New York, The Art of Marvel, in the not too distant future. And I just left from the Bronx to go to Paris, and here I am with the New York Yankees logo. Also, there's a sign for the Bronx Zoo, which, as I've said a million times on all these shows, I grew up 2 blocks away from the Bronx Zoo, so it was kind of funny to see the Bronx Zoo represented in the first few minutes I visited Disneyland Paris. And we were waiting on some people, so we ended up walking past a couple and through a couple of the resort hotels. This is Newport Bay, which had recently gone through a big refurbishment. We ended up at the Disney Village, and then we ended up, of course, at Disneyland Paris. So this gets confusing because Disneyland Paris has been the name of this park, but then they changed the name of the resort to Disneyland Paris. So now this is Disneyland Park with a C. So just as you see it up there, Disneyland Paris, just get rid of that IS and put a C at the end there. And that's the name this park is going by. To add to that confusion, this used to be Euro Disney, so you'll see there on the train station there are insignias for EDRR, which is the Euro Disney Railroad, still sporting that logo, even though they changed the name a long time ago. Someone wrote, ew, Yankees. That's unfortunate. If we don't see a picture of Tom in a beret, we'll get really disappointed. I think there is a picture of me in a ridiculous hat. They don't have first visit buttons at Disneyland Paris either. So I had to get this I'm celebrating button, and they had to write first visit on it. So that happened. And first Ubiquitous castle photo. This is obviously a really beautiful castle. I know most people say it's their favorite. I'm obviously biased towards Walt Disney World. That's where I grew up going, and I really love our castle. This is a really wonderful and beautiful castle, probably my second favorite. I know that might be somewhat controversial, and obviously there's a lot of cool things, but they also had the benefit of 20 years of learning new things. And I don't know. It's a great castle. I still prefer Florida, but a wonderful icon. And then we went and had annual passports processed in Discoveryland, and there was this amazing mural because it was in Discoveryland that had the Nautilus and Jules Verne and all that fun stuff. We're going to see what else we got going on here. Oh, we got some more. Here's another pretty castle picture. I do like the hillside next to the castle. It's kind of cool. Just a quick couple things about our arrival process. I know we get into some of this trip planning stuff in this for first trip. I will say flying out of New York was, for those of you coming out of the U.S., you probably want to stop in New York. Most likely you're going to get something that connects through there anyway, depending on where you're coming from. But I just decided to fly to New York and then fly from New York to Paris, where you can find a lot of really great rates for flights. So flew into Charles de Gaulle, which isn't terribly far. I think it took us 45 minutes-ish by car to get there. We had someone pick us up. Someone was nice enough to pick us up. On the way back, leaving, we took an Uber, which ended up being the same as 2 of the high-speed rail tickets that would have been the alternative, and we had to do less luggage juggling. So you may want to think about those things. We also stayed off property at the hotel. I never know how to pronounce it. Lizzie, I guess is the name. It's just off property. Super close, super convenient shuttle service. Great rates. It was very nice. That's all the planning stuff I can really help you with. This was a good time of year to go. I'll tell you that. It was busy on the weekends, but during the week we were pretty much alone, and that might be a thing with Paris, other than the summer where that's pretty regular for them here. But if you go on weekdays, I think you'll be fine. It doesn't seem like they have, other than like holidays, they don't seem to have very busy weekdays. So we're looking at the castle. First stop was the Dragon. Someone turned on their flash, and I happened to take this photo at the same time. This is not my flash doing this, because that would be rude. But it just so happened this was at one time the largest animatronic ever built by Walt Disney Imagineering. That was obviously surpassed several times since then. But this is just a walkthrough. They in their creation of Disneyland Paris, there was this decision that the Europeans really enjoyed walkthrough experiences. And so every land has one, if not multiple, of these sort of walkthrough attractions. And this layer underneath the castle is part of the Fantasyland experience. There's also a walkthrough inside the upper levels of the castle with stained glass and statue and tapestry displays representing Sleeping Beauty. This was a really cool, unique thing, which Paris has a lot of things that are sort of duplicated or replicated. Not a ton of things that are 100% wholly unique, and that's one of them. We made a terrible decision to start because this wasn't going to be open most of the trip, and because of my affinity for Hollywood studios that most of you know about. We ate at, what is the name of this thing? Blockbuster Cafe. Yeah, Blockbuster Cafe, which is in the Studios Park. So just a couple, we of course started in Disneyland Park, because who wants to start at Walt Disney Studios Paris in its current form, right? And so we ended up eating at the Blockbuster Cafe, which has the lightest theming of any Disney restaurant on this planet. And the food wasn't great either. So there'll be dining reviews. Don't worry. I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about food here, because again, there will be dining reviews for you to read at a future time. We spent some time walking around the Disneyland Hotel, which is right at the front of the park, which I have referenced in segments where we've talked about this upcoming rumored Epcot hotel. I've referenced the Grand Californian, and I've referenced Hotel Maricosta as hotels that are connected to Disney parks. This is the original. I sometimes forget to bring this up. In 1992, this was the first hotel connected to a park. It's right above the park entrance. They're going to do some major remodeling of this resort in the not too distant future. So we wanted to spend some time in here. And look at this wallpaper. I think this is really great. A really strange collection of characters, but one that makes me very happy. You see Prince John there, and Sorcerer Mickey and Scrooge McDuck and Pinocchio in this wallpaper. And then, of course, this hotel, being the Disneyland Hotel, is full of concept art, be it for the Paris park or the others. But this is all mostly Paris stuff we're going to look at to start. This is all various art. Very Grand Floridian-esque inside, to no surprise, very similar time period. There's art for Main Street. There's art for the actual hotel. The hotel definitely is in need of some work. You'll see there that photo looks kind of whitewashed. That's not the picture I took. That's because that light has been burning into that picture for a very long time. And you'll see that in a lot of these, they got sort of whitewashed where the light had been shining on them for too long. But the hotel's covered in all this concept art, which is obviously really great. Phantom Manor was closed, so that's not great, but nonetheless, it'll be open again. We'll go back when it is open. And obviously, we've been keeping you updated via the site with what's going on with that anyway. So let's see what else we got here. I know I have more pictures of this later. This is the interior of Colonel Hathie's Pizza Outpost, which started its life as the Explorers Club. It's a table service restaurant in 1992. They didn't really end up needing as much table service as they had. They ended up neutering this thing and turning it into a counter service. But the interior is still really pretty. And they just announced they're going to be doing something with this. They're not saying what they're going to do with this space yet, but something's going to be happening in the not too distant future. And you'll see a reoccurring theme here with Disneyland Paris. We're not going to end up talking about rides a lot because they don't have a lot of rides that really steal the show, or attractions that really steal the show. What Paris has, at least in Disneyland Park, is gorgeous exteriors and interiors. It is a beautiful park to walk around and spend time in. I wish there was a little more substance as far as attractions, but design-wise, it is a beautiful thing. I'd say it's the Disney Sea of the castle parks. It's jaw-droppingly beautiful. I just think, obviously Pirates, they did a great job rehabbing that, because I think it's the best of all the classic Pirates of the Caribbean attractions I've been on, and now I've been on all of them. So I think that's, and I know people are going to bring up Shanghai. Shanghai's not a real Pirates of the Caribbean, even has a whole different name. Of the four real Pirates of the Caribbean attractions, Paris has the best one. And people say similar things about Phantom Manor. So once that's back, I think those are very clearly the two headliners of this park. But there are some other cool things, but mostly just a really beautiful park to walk around. Let's see what else we got going on here. Our friends who are nice enough to tour us around the first couple days brought us to Salon Mickey, which is the private club for those who now used to own stock in Euro Disney. And you're allowed a couple times a month to go in here and get some snacks and some drinks and sort of lounge around in here. It's a really cool thing. You may recognize the wallpaper in here. It's the foyer wallpaper from the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland, which that wallpaper now also appears at Walt Disney World on the walls of Uptown Jewelers since the most recent remodeling. So, yeah. Jason, you here?
I'm here now.
Great. Could you help me monitor this chat?
Yeah. Yep.
And you've actually been to Paris, unlike Tokyo, so you can...
So I can make
it's been a little while, but you could definitely help me out. You've been on Crush's Coaster, which I have not. So.
You didn't go on, because it was closed.
It's closed, yeah. Yeah, Crush and Phantom Manor and Mad Tea Party were closed for the duration of my visit. What did you think of Crush's Coaster?
It was okay.
Okay, so I didn't miss anything.
No, I mean it's I liked it better than Space Mountain.
Oh, we'll talk about that. You also rode Phantom Manor, which I have not.
I did.
Yeah,
that was my favorite ever.
Okay, so good. See, and now this refurb sounds really great. So very excited to go back there and check it out eventually. And I could do that because I now have the annual pass there as well. I do have now Tokyo. I have the premiere for California and Florida, and I have easily the prettiest of the annual passes, despite being the cheapest of all those in my hand by at least half, is that Infinity Pass for Paris. Tokyo was like 8 something. The premiere's, I think, 16 now, which is insane.
It's absurd.
And then I think, what was it? I think it was like 400 euros. I ended up with a discount, but 400 euros typically for the Infinity Pass in Paris, which is kind of a steal. Even their next lowest pass is much cheaper than that even, and that gives you pretty much everything except a couple of benefits that the Infinity Pass will get you. They were really, by 1992, I think they had learned almost everything they needed to know about making these castle parks. And so one of the things I think they did far above and beyond is attraction posters. I love the attraction posters for Paris. They're all beautiful. So there you see the Euro Disney Railroad. Even just the vehicles, Main Street vehicles have a poster. There you see one for the Molly Brown and the Mark Twain, which will return in, I think they said 2020. The Mark Twain is going to come back at Disneyland Paris. I won't bore you guys too much with this because I think I tweeted about it so much, and there's full videos you guys can watch. This was the, while we were there, the event going on was the Festival of Pirates and Princesses, which the main event of that, there was a couple of things going on. But the main event of that was this Choose Your Side parade / show, which was really amazing. They would start at two ends of the park. So at one parade gate, the Team Pirate would come out. The other parade gate, Team Princess would come out. They'd basically do a show stop, like a 5 to 10 minute show. And then both parades would meet in the hub and do another show. I thought this was really ingenious and well put together. There was a ton of people in it, like more entertainers than I've seen in just about anything. I will say I think Paris right now is at the top of their game entertainment-wise. Between this and Mickey and the Magician. As much as people told me about Tokyo entertainment being amazing, I think I was more impressed with Paris as far as the shows and stuff we saw there. There's a lot of Snow White dancing pictures. Oh, here you see there. I have a couple shots of the show up at the castle as well. But really fantastic. A lot of fun. And a lot of people in person knew the choreography and everything, which is pretty crazy. All right, we'll keep rolling along here. Jason, and keep me posted if there's any questions or anything.
Yep, no questions at this point.
Okay. We did the Inventions brunch. Inventions is in the Disneyland Hotel.
You mean Innoventions?
No, it's Inventions. It's themed to inventions. Like it's because it's a Victorian style hotel, so there's sort of a steampunk themed buffet, which makes sense because it's Victorian themed, just like the Grand Floridian. This is a really neat idea. I kind of wish the Grand Floridian would do something like this. And it's expensive. It's like 80 euros, which is a lot.
Wow. After
conversion. But it was worth it. It had a lot of characters, 8 total characters, and a buffet that included a lot. A ton of different desserts. There's fish and all kinds of stuff. Again, we'll have a review. I won't spend too much time on it. But I will say that absolutely a highlight. The Inventions brunch. Scroll past some pictures here. All right. Let's talk about Big Thunder a little bit. Big Thunder here. Paris has the preeminent Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. Probably because Tony Baxter was the lead on the park and Big Thunder is his creation. So obviously he felt like they should build a really good one for Disneyland Paris. It's really great. It takes the place of Tom Sawyer Island there. So there is no Tom Sawyer Island. So you load a train and the train dives under the rivers of America. And you go out to Big Thunder Mountain, which isn't terribly different from all the other ones other than being an island. It's got this really cool splashdown on the water, which is a benefit of being the island. And it also has the Disneyland finale, the projection map finale, unfortunately, which isn't working because apparently one of the lines busted and they will have to think about draining the rivers of America to fix it. Paris was brutally honest about that recently at an event. But nonetheless, a really great Big Thunder. Big Thunder's never been my favorite, so I wasn't as crazy as other people, but I would not deny that it is the best of the Big Thunders, but not my favorite thing. Jason, what do you think about Big Thunder?
I liked it just because it was different.
Yeah.
I think it's really neat to load on the shore and then you go out to the island.
Yeah, it was cool. Again, definitely the best one. Their daytime parade's kind of a lot of the floats are old and recycled. Some were new, but it wasn't anything too special, I didn't think. They did have and this is what's Disney Stars on Parade. I forget the name of this thing. Getting bad with the attraction names in my old age. They do have this thing. Hey, remember this thing, everybody? Yeah, they do have that. It's not blowing fire anymore, obviously because of what happened in Florida. But it exists. That's a good picture. It still exists there. It's a little slightly different, but not really all that different. Definitely the highlight of the parade. I also like the frozen float at the end, but the parade wasn't not necessarily a trip highlight. It was okay, solid. Again, we talked about it. Just show you a couple of interiors. This is a restaurant that wasn't even open while we were there. It was open for like one day when we were there, and we caught them as they were closing and got to run in and take pictures. This is, I think it's Pizzeria Bellanotte, which is loosely Lady and the Tramp themed, but just look at this little section in the corner. Just beautiful. And not a whole lot of character stuff, even though this is in Fantasyland, which their Fantasyland has sort of sections that are different European nations. So this corner of Fantasyland's Italy, obviously. And then there's a section that's France and a section that's the United Kingdom, and so on and so forth. Yeah. And even Small World kind of falls into that because the storyline there is you're like, it's like a gondola dock. They pretend it's a gondola and everybody's dressed as gondoliers, which makes sense. These really cool pillars of Tony and other characters from Lady and the Tramp are in there. There's even a statue of Bacchus, which I don't know of many of those that have ever existed. I think Fantasia Gardens has one, but I thought it was cool that there was a Bacchus statue, pirate photo. There was a cat. This is a really bad photo, but at Pirates at the exit, there's just like a cat in a barrel. Just insane amount of again, just pretty much like Disney Sea as far as that level of detail, at least the stuff that was done when the park was originally built. Like look at this. Adventure Isle is gorgeous. So they, instead of doing Tom Sawyer Island, they basically did Tom Sawyer Island in Adventureland, and they did Adventure Isle. They also switched generally where Frontierland and Adventureland are. They switched them around. So Frontierland is right to the left of Main Street, and then between Frontierland and Fantasyland is Adventureland, which has a great transition, which is this pirate ship, which transitions to Pirates of the Caribbean, which transitions to Peter Pan's flight, which is ingenious. But look at this. Just this is one view. Look at all these layers. You have Adventure Isle and the pirate ship, and you see some other buildings there, and then the castle and Space Mountain. It's just, there's a lot of really beautiful things in one shot. Just a really pretty park. And Jason, you went when they were a little more run down.
I did.
Yeah.
That was like 2012.
Yeah.
How
bad was the maintenance when you went?
I mean, it wasn't like it was horrendous. It wasn't like it was Disneyland circa 2001 or something.
You think Disneyland was worse at its worst point?
Yeah,
wow.
I do.
I didn't see Disneyland at that point. So I assume the things that I saw that they had still not gotten to, because obviously when the 25th rolled around, they started to pour money into things and fix things here. But there were things I saw where it was clear they had not gotten to them yet. And I was like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen in a Disney park, what this looks like right now. But you're saying Disneyland 2001 was still worse?
I think so. I mean, Paris never killed people.
True, but I was just talking about like look and...
Yeah, but I mean,
did things
work related, right? So
yeah, I suppose. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, there were definitely things that needed upkeep, but it wasn't like horrendously blatant.
Yeah. So there's a couple of instances of that, but I think from what I can tell from just my first trip, I think they have likely done a very good job of fixing a lot of the resort. Things looked good generally, not Tokyo good, but good. At
Better
least
than
on
Florida
par
good?
with the U.S. parks. I don't know about that. Probably about even.
Okay.
Maybe even, yeah. It's possible. The things I saw that were bad were worse than anything I'd ever seen in Florida when it was bad. That's what I will say. And we'll talk about the few things I thought were terrible. I don't know why, but there's a Wally and Eve statue in Discoveryland. It's really great, though. I don't know why. We'll just stop and talk about that for a moment. But again, look at these beautiful. This was just we meandered through the lobby and an exterior seating area of this restaurant at Fantasyland. And there's just a full Cinderella coach just sitting out there, just a display piece. There you see that. This well is just in this courtyard, kind of hidden from everybody behind the castle. Look at this gate. The gate is shaped like the coach. Just more detail. This is in the Christmas shop in the castle. This is great. All these Sleeping Beauty animal characters that make up this fireplace. Every column had Diablo from Sleeping Beauty etched in it, and he's in different poses. It's not even like the same etching of him all around. It's all different poses. And then this is the castle walkthrough. These beautiful stained glass pieces are up there. Again, just really, really beautiful park.
A couple of questions in the chat. How was the weather?
Beautiful. It was. So when we saw the weather report before we left, it sounded like it was going to rain the entire time we were there. It kept pushing off. We had one night of rain, and otherwise it was between, I want to say, like high 60s and maybe we just started getting into the 70s, 80s by the time we were leaving. This is, I think this is the time of year to go for crowd and weather wise. That being said, we missed some headliners because I think of the time of year we went. But it was gorgeous. I had packed pants for the whole trip, and I packed only a couple pairs of shorts, and I ended up like almost just in the shorts the whole time. The pants ended up being a waste of time. That's how nice out it ended up being the whole time we were there.
The other question in the chat is the Mastercard preferred seating that you talked about.
Yeah.
Is that for any Mastercard, or how does that work?
Any Mastercard.
Oh, cool.
Has to be a Mastercard, yeah. It's also so we broke that. Even the sites that write about Paris had no idea. So we were like just about one of the first people to do it. And it works for Mickey and the Magician, which is at the studios, and also Motors Action, which is Lights Motors Action that used to be at Hollywood Studios. And they have seating for both of those. And if you want it, go super early. Like as soon as that park opens, you need to be in there and go get it, because Mickey and the Magician only has a couple of tickets. And that's the one I recommend getting it for. Motors Action, you can sit wherever. It's still the same thing. But Mickey and the Magician, I love the seats. And actually, the video we have up on YouTube of Mickey and the Magician is filmed from those MasterCard seats. It's pretty great.
Did you like Motors Action?
No, I still hated it. I immediately, 5 minutes in, I was like, I remember why I hate this thing.
So it was pretty much the same.
It was pretty much the same. Look at this. This is all inside the castle. Yeah, there's a Diablo statue in there. I love that character, so I took a lot of pictures. Beautiful stained glass, tapestries, a lot of cool stuff. Look at this. This is a beautiful shot. The castle is beautiful. Again, I'm partial to Florida, but it's a beautiful castle. Here's Main Street steals the show far and away. I love the Florida Main Street. I like that Victorian era styling. Paris mimics that and then takes it to a whole nother level beyond. The interiors are all insanely themed. They're gorgeous. Everything is just covered in detail. This is the cable car cafe, and everything. All the walls are covered in like all sorts of cable car maps and pictures of cable cars. It's a really great little space. That's kind of the story of Main Street. Don't eat at Vapiano at Disney Village, by the way. Leave that at that.
How about Catastrophe Canyon? Are you going to get there?
Yeah, we're here. I guess we're almost here. I guess we're at Studios now. They don't go in order. Now they're going to start going in order. Let's talk about Walt Disney Studios Paris, because obviously everybody ranks this as the worst Disney park on Earth. I'm going to preface this with everyone knows how I feel about Hollywood Studios. I like that theme. It appeals to me. I grew into that, and Hollywood Studios gave me an affinity for classic movies and appreciation for the art form that I didn't have before, because as I said before, when I think it was 10 or 11, I decided, like, I want to see all these movies that are in the Great Movie Ride. And so I started watching every movie that was in the Great Movie Ride, even if it was just a clip. And so I grew to love Hollywood. And of course, Epcot sort of went on the decline. That was my favorite park as a kid. And so I grew into Studios being my favorite park. As Epcot declined through the rest of my life and continues to. So needless to say, I walk into this park and I see the Eiffel Tower. I'm going to like this. That's going to win me over. I like the Eiffel Tower. I always like the Eiffel Tower. So I'm already pretty happy. That being said, then there's this big ugly building in front of us. Anyway. But there are really great things in this park. Chez Remy is one of those. Chez Remy is the sit-down restaurant attached to the Ratatouille attraction in the little Ratatouille area. We sadly are not getting this as part of the Epcot attraction. We are getting just the attraction. This will not be included. I did not like the Ratatouille attraction. It is too screen heavy, and the screen sections are completely not immersive. You can see the floor and the ceiling very clearly. The illusion is not there. There are moments. There the loading area, and then the big fridge scene, which is another physical scene in the ride, are gorgeous. And there's cool little things, other little things that happen that I think are cool. Overall, though, extraordinarily disappointed. It felt very universal, and even so, I think like Spider-Man's still a better version of what this is. But this restaurant was sort of the savior of the whole Ratatouille experience. This is just the check-in area, which has all these awards for the restaurant, all these really cool things. And we'll get to the actual interior. It's not really... They don't in story explain how you shrink to the size of a rat. It just happens. You know, it's not the strongest story. But once you get, I don't know why we jumped to Buffalo Bill. Once you get to the size of a rat, there's going to be a lot of menu pictures. Let me skip these real quick, because we will have a review of the food. You guys will see the food in the review. Let's just focus on the restaurant. The tables are themed to like jars and tins and things that food come in. So they look like giant food items. My chair was like bottle tops. What else we got here? There was just, instead of art being on the wall, they hung a food tray because it's giant. The lighting above you, Christmas lights.
Oh boy.
It's really the most unbelievably themed restaurant. Look at this service station. Look at that. That's not even for guest use. It's just beautiful. But look at these. Here's another one. The one with the desserts, completely different. We have, here's a look at the more of an overall view of the restaurant. There are booths separated with giant plates. This is a must. I don't care if you don't feel like table service is in the budget. If you go to Disneyland Paris and don't experience this restaurant, you have missed out on a very important part of the experience. Look at these with the drink umbrellas as actual umbrellas over the table. Insanely themed, and also the food was fantastic. The wine pairing was amazing. Look at these little seats. They're corks. There's cork seats. So you have to do Bistro Chez Remy. There is no choice. If you do one table service restaurant, it's going to be between this and Walt's. I really think you have to do both of them. We'll talk about Walt's in a few moments. Let's talk about this. This is going to be gone soon. So the reason I pushed my significant other into going to Paris soon, even though I had Tokyo in April, Paris, of course, announced this massive expansion, and they're going to fix this park. The Studios Park has a lot of problems, despite what I like about it, which is purely out of nostalgia and just my weirdness. There is a lot of problems with this park, and so they're going to spend most of the many billions of dollars they're spending on this park, on this resort, on this park, and Disney Village, which is garbage and needs it. Disney Village was terrible, beyond belief. It looked like a rundown like mall that should have closed 10 years ago. So I wanted to see these really bad things before they were touched, because I always felt bad that I never saw Superstar Limo or Rocket Rods. I never went to Disneyland at that point. So I missed these moments in history, these infamous attractions. One of those infamous attractions that's in the argument often for worst Disney attraction of all time is the Armageddon special effects show at Walt Disney Studios, Paris. It's the only one of these that was ever built. It opened with the park in 2002. And it's a very old studio style attraction, reminiscent maybe more so of stuff at Universal back in the day than even stuff that was at MGM. It is a pre-show experience with a person who sort of walks you through what you're going to do. And then you go into this room. I love the way this photo came out. You go into this room, 360-degree room where things just sort of happen. So imagine like Earthquake or even Catastrophe Canyon as a like walkthrough experience. You stand around and things happen. Fire explodes and walls collapse and lighting happens and all these things. I thought it was so bad it was funny and enjoyable. I don't think it's nearly the worst Disney attraction I've ever seen. I kind of liked it for how bad it was. But like the fire explosion and stuff, it was cool enough. I was glad. I felt it was worth the trip to have said, to say I've seen that thing, but I'm mentally deranged, so don't follow my example. To give you an idea of why this park is getting billions of dollars poured into it, here's a shot. That's inside the park. So yeah, all that just asphalt is park area. What you see across there is the facade for Rock and Roller Coaster Avec Aerosmith, which has a completely different storyline than the Florida version. Not that that matters, because that too is also going away soon. That's going to be the Iron Man roller coaster. It is a weird thing where Steven Tyler has decided he wants to have a roller coaster with his music perfectly synced to it. And that's kind of the storyline. And then so you go, same track layout as Florida, but it is not a limo. It's just this weird like sound mixer car thing. And you just go through a bunch of concert lights. And that's the ride. And it's in that big unthemed warehouse. So, yeah.
Things in the chat.
Okay, go ahead.
Let's see. How is the language barrier?
Non-existent. Some of the rides are mostly in French, but every cast member we encountered spoke English or enough where it was not a problem. Easier than Japan even. In Japan, they're so nice that the language barrier doesn't matter. In Paris, everybody spoke English, and I am happy to say like no one was offended when they started talking to me in French. And I was like, I'm sorry, I don't speak much French. And they were still super nice. I want to talk about the cast members for a moment, if I may. Paris in general and Disneyland Paris sort of have this reputation for, I guess, people not being polite. That was not my experience at all. Other than one cast member, which I think out of interactions with hundreds over the course of 8 days, everyone was incredibly nice. I thought for the most part, they were better trained and more capable than any or most cast members in Florida. I preferred them to any overall to any U.S. Disney resort. So either Florida or California. I thought Paris was better. I still think Tokyo is kind of the gold standard. Paris wasn't far behind as far as quality of cast member. They were all super excited. Many of them were very much in themed and loved being in themed. The cast members we had at Tower of Terror were off the charts amazing. The cast members at Pirates were amazingly fun. The cast members at Big Thunder were incredible. And in some of those cases, like Tower, I don't even like that version of Tower of Terror. But what made the experience was how into it, how in character, and how much care the cast members working there had. I was blown away by almost every cast experience I had in Paris. But language barrier, practically non-existent. The only person that did not speak English at all was our Uber driver on the way to the airport, but the person I was with spoke enough French that we were fine and got there with no problem. But otherwise, you'll be fine. Signage is mostly, almost entirely in English. And then some attractions, they won't. Some attractions are and some attractions aren't. Same as Japan. Probably a little more English here.
The screens in the Remy attraction, are they blurry screens or just too many of them?
They're clear. They're just framed horribly. So you pull into like this big room and it's clear you're in a big room and like the screen starts going places. And as in like the rats are running in a direction. And so you're traveling, quote unquote, traveling in a direction, but there's clearly this black floor in front of you. So there is no illusion that you're actually going anywhere. That's the big problem. There are scenes where it works. There are scenes where you're like under a cart and some of that is hidden by like the curtain on the cart and the illusion kind of works for a moment. But for the most part, it doesn't work. I don't think it's a very strong attraction. The ride system's super cool, but I don't think it works very well. I was extremely disappointed.
Are reservations for the restaurants needed 6 months in advance like at Walt Disney World?
I don't think you can make them 6 months in advance. I don't know exactly how long in advance, but you should make them. I don't think they're going to be as hard to get, but you'll definitely want to call ahead and get them. They are testing online reservations now, so by the time any of you plan a trip, they may just have online reservations. But I cannot. Most of the table service we ate at was fantastic. But if you can only do 2, and I'm saying you have to do 2 because they were the 2 highlights of my trip more than attractions or anything else we saw, was Bistro Chez Remy and Walt's restaurant. You have to go to both of those. They are an experience beyond the food. They are an experience as a Disney fan that you must have. More so than most attractions in Paris. Do we have other questions?
That's basically it so far.
Okay. I'll keep chugging along here. The studio tram tour is also going away, and rightfully so, because if you thought the one at Hollywood Studios was bad towards the end of its life, you have no idea. And if you want to talk about maintenance, I mean, you could see what's going on the screen here. There's something all over it, and the bottom's like chipping off. This was short and bad and useless. Going away, rightfully so. It was a cool nostalgia trip to do a tram ride again. I like that, but it was really terrible. This was worse than Armageddon. I would see Armageddon 5 times more before I rode this again. Just really terrible.
Was Armageddon like Poseidon's Fury at Islands of Adventure? It kind of looked like that from the picture.
I guess so. You stand and things happen like bursts of fire and stuff. So I guess in that respect, yeah.
Okay.
I think Poseidon's Fury is more impressive.
Okay.
But Armageddon's just kind of like Backdraft was at Hollywood. I don't know if you're familiar with that either, but it's not the first of its kind thing. Just like Earthquake, but not in a vehicle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, or Catastrophe Canyon, not in a vehicle, like a walking tour version. So yeah, so basically what the tour does, it goes through a ABC miniseries from 20 years ago called Dinotopia. Look it up, kids. It goes to Catastrophe Canyon, which, I mean, is still Catastrophe Canyon. Definitely the highlight of this attraction. One of the coolest things I saw was this. There's a clapboard there which says Scene 89, Take 2. Disney's Hollywood Studios opened as Disney MGM Studios in 1989 with the Backlot Tour featuring Catastrophe Canyon. Take 2, this was the second Catastrophe Canyon built. So thus, Scene 89, Take 2. I thought that was a fun thing. They still have an animation attraction, which has this really cool lobby, which then leads to a film followed by the Mushu show. It was a fun little experience. This isn't going anywhere, and it's definitely worth seeing. You have time, I would see it. They have some weird merchandise in Paris. There's these weird Bambi ears. Yeah, it's a thing. I bought more merchandise than I thought I was going to. As much as people say that Paris merchandise isn't great, they had a lot of really cool park-specific items or attraction-specific items. So don't think there's nothing you might want. They definitely have some attraction-specific stuff that is only in Paris and pretty cool. I was talking about walkthrough attractions before. One of those is Alice's Curious Labyrinth, which is a maze attraction, which basically has pieces of the Disneyland Dark Ride spread out in a walkthrough. This was wonderful. Some of these walkthroughs are fantastic. This was my favorite of all of them. We spent like a half hour in there. People like to climb things in Paris. We spent like a half hour in there, and there was lots of cool things to see. There were things you could trigger that would happen. Just a lot of fun. And again, anything in that park is going to be beautiful. Look at these views from. This is a view from the top of the Queen's Castle in the maze. Fantasyland, which is gorgeous. The whole park is gorgeous. Love Discoveryland. A lot of vibes like Mysterious Island at Disney Sea, all that steampunk, Jules Verne, 20,000 Leagues type stuff going on. Yeah, I love this. Look at this Coke machine. This is in Videopolis, which is a counter service / live show venue, which is an interesting combination. But I just love these Coke machines. And they also have these automated coffee machines. That's a big thing there, too. And a lot of smoking sections because it's Paris. The Orbitron there. Discoveryland was beautiful. Everything's beautiful. Space Mountain is currently Hyperspace Mountain. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. It was fun. It felt like a Cedar Point attraction with a pretty roof on it. It's like a thrill coaster, and even the queue kind of feels a little junky, like a Cedar Point or a Six Flags ride.
I think it's very junky queue, and
yeah,
even the load area is terrible.
Yeah, no,
and the load area is outside, which is weird. I mean,
but these were pretty new at the time. Like, so I understand the limitations. Like a steel roller coaster with these kind of inversions at a launch in 1995 was a very new thing. So I get that part of it. The exterior is great. Like the cannon's beautiful. The effects for hyperspace weren't bad. It makes zero sense in Discoveryland, but it wasn't terrible. And the coaster itself is, I would dare say, the most intense Disney roller coaster ever built. I think without doubt.
Agree with that for sure.
Yeah, more so than Rock and Roller Coaster for sure. I don't know why they built Rock and Roller Coaster after this. Yeah. I'm not crazy about it, but didn't hate it, and I'd like to see it back in something of its older form. You rode Mission 2?
I did.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, no one liked Mission 2. So
nope, I sure didn't.
Yeah, I know.
Question from the chat. Did you see the Horizons props on the Tram tour?
There was one left. There was another one of those hover vehicles, like the one that's still sitting in Backlot Express at Studios. That was it. There was more apparently like a year or two ago, and they've been slowly vanishing. So I don't know. I'm sure they'll make their way to the archives or something.
Did you feel any similar spirit or vibe at Disney Studios that you used to feel at Hollywood Studios?
Yeah, I mean, definitely there's things that echo that park. I mean, there's a backlot tour and all that kind of stuff. It felt like a cheaper version of Hollywood Studios, even at its height. But definitely there's moments of that vibe. But there's also like sort of a amusement park vibe from like Toy Story Land or Toy Story Playland, excuse me. And then especially in that backlot area where it's just like asphalt. There's junky parts, but there were things I also really liked about that park too.
Question in the chat: how nauseating is that Space Mountain?
Very.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it, but I definitely had like something going on in my head after each ride, like a little bit of a headache.
Yep.
And to preface that, I went with some friends to Cedar Point the week before. Cedar Point is like the roller coaster capital of the world. There are more roller coasters anywhere. They have the most intense roller coasters. None of them made me feel nauseous in a way. None of them made me feel nauseous. We get into that. And Space Mountain, every ride, no matter how well I felt before we rode, there was always a little bit of a headache after. But I thought some things about it were so cool that I wanted to power through and ride it a couple times anyway.
How about Kraken at SeaWorld?
That it makes me sick.
Yeah, that makes me ill too. So there's a good comparison for people.
Oh, here's the splashdown at Big Thunder. In slow motion, by the way. This is also where they take the photo. This is a neat part. I like that.
So that's not like Matterhorn where it's actually splashing. It's
not actually splashing. You get wet there though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, we had crepes. Here's some crepes.
How's the railroad?
Cool. Not the best one. Probably the most beautiful engines and passenger cars. But not I don't know. There's a duck sleeping on Nautilus. Not the best ride, but pretty and interesting. And I like that it passed through Pirates of the Caribbean. I thought that was fun.
About Pirates yet? Did I miss that part?
I don't think we talked about Pirates. I already said it's my favorite of all of them. Here, someone asked about me wearing a beret, but no, here's me wearing a Jafar turban. Enjoy that. I should have bought that. I forgot to buy it.
It's always next year.
There, I guess so. We'll keep going through here. I want to talk about Walt's. I know we're quickly running out of time because we still got to do a Wigs post show. But this was the absolute highlight of the trip. Walt's is a restaurant located on Main Street. It's at 1401 Flower Street. Get it? It's Imagineering's address. This is the lobby. Has a lot of pictures of Walt and Lillian sitting around. There's a bust of Walt, pictures of his parents and him. This really cool thing, which is just a story element. But at the time period of Main Street, money wouldn't have been handled by the people out in the store working. The money would be sent to the back to be processed and change would come back. And that's what this thing is supposed to be. So the crank would send the money up to whoever's managing in the back. They'd count out the money and send back the change down. And of course, obviously it has Walt's, and here it is upstairs, the actual thing where it would go. And you see the Walt Disney just like on the railing at Disneyland. And the cool thing about, this is going to be the menu. I'm not going to drag you guys through 30 pictures of the menu. Let's look at this stuff. Here's the view. So it's located on the upper floor, which even as a kid, before I knew like what the other Disney parks consisted of, I remember as a kid thinking, why isn't there a restaurant on Main Street that had like an upstairs? I think that'd be really cool. I remember eating at Tony's a bunch of times as a kid and thinking like, oh, it'd be so cool if they had an upstairs. So when I got more into things and started looking into what the other parks were about, I saw that, oh my God, there's a second floor restaurant on Main Street at Disneyland Paris. And so this was like the very first thing I learned about Disneyland Paris in my life. Well, let's not look at that pizza. That's not from Walt's. This is like the first thing I learned about Disneyland Paris in my life. And so it's been the thing through all these years leading up to eating at Walt's that I was always looking forward to. And it lived up to every bit of that. We also made sure to get a reservation around parade time. So we watched the parade from the window, which is really cool. Not the best view, but I mean, come on, you're sitting in a restaurant upstairs on Main Street and the parade's going by. It's going to be a really cool thing. So there's just some shots of the parade going by. There's the dragon going by. Let's see. So the restaurant is themed to Disneyland Paris. Each room is a land, and it's filled with concept art and maquettes and models and all kinds of things related to the park. So as a person watching or listening to this show right now, as a Disney fan, there is no restaurant at any other Disney park on earth that you need to eat at more than Walt's restaurant. I'm going to assure you of that. I'm going to show you a bunch of pictures now that are going to show you why. So again, a lot of concept art.
You got like 30 seconds.
I have 30 seconds. We can go a couple minutes over. It's all right. We'll live. You have a clock to punch? This is the Fantasyland room. Look at how gorgeous this is. It's beautiful. There's another corner of the Fantasyland room. You see the castle picture on the wall there. There's maquettes from attractions. So from the Pinocchio ride, there's a Jiminy maquette. There's an Queen of Hearts maquette for the Alice walkthrough. Just more art. What else we got here? This is the Adventureland room. Again, each one has a themed fireplace too, which is amazing. There's these themed little corners. There's pirates art. There's the fireplace. Just more art sitting out. There's a model of a shipwreck from Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm going to quickly go through some more of this, because I think if you take anything away from this show, it's that you have to eat at Walt's restaurant. This was my favorite thing we saw. The fireplace for the Discoveryland room has the Nautilus and weird compass and astrology chart thing. Just really cool. Let's look at the overall shot of that again. Look at this. The carved wood. Unbelievable. It's a shame, it really, experiencing it in person, it really is a shame that Disneyland Paris didn't succeed out of the gate, because I would have loved to have seen this kind of investment, this monetarily and creatively, continue in not only this park, but all of them. Like, this could have been sort of the model going forward. And, Michael Eisner doesn't get a lot of credit. I think he let them kind of run wild with this park. And it didn't financially work out, and so I think he did what he had to do afterwards, which wasn't good. But this was basically their answer to Tokyo, really. I mean, well, Tokyo wasn't like this yet. Tokyo was only the one park, and it was as it existed in '83. Tokyo was not at that level yet. So this is Disney Sea before Disney Sea. This is that level of storytelling, but 9 years earlier. So it began here, and then Disney Sea, they were allowed to really take it to the next level. But this is sort of the beginning of that modern, and I've always, even for the U.S. parks, I've often gone on and on about the 90s being, I think, the golden age. They were spending money and doing all these great things. Paris makes it really abundant that at that point in Imagineering, with an endless budget, they could have done the most amazing things. Like, look at this room. This is the Discoveryland room. Just unbelievable. Very quickly breeze through. Look at this chair. This is a chair you can sit on. Unbelievable. Quickly. Yeah, there's Frontierland room. I want to show the stained glass. Although this room, just the bookcases in here, the bookshelves with maquettes and things for different attractions. Look at the art for Frontierland Thunder Mesa with Phantom Manor and Big Thunder. Another bookcase. Here's the room. Gorgeous room. I want to show the stained glass, and then we'll move. Yeah, look at this. Look at the stained glass, the other half of this Frontierland room. Just unbelievable. So we have just a few minutes left. I want to just quickly glance through some things maybe. I hated It's a Small World. I wanted to get that out of the way. I don't like their Small World. It's not in the Mary Blair art style, which I think makes it not Small World. So I'll leave it at that. The Explorers Club. We'll talk about this on a Back to the Future or something. I want to talk about Adventurers Club and Explorers Club at some point. There's so much to talk about there. I didn't think the nighttime show was a waste. I know a lot of people don't like it. I thought Illuminations was enjoyable. You should absolutely see it if you're going to be there. It's a cool little show. And make sure you're close enough where you can see the fountains, because there's some cool stuff that goes on. Like, they reminded me of the original World of Color show, which is still going. But things with laser and water they were doing that just showed a lot of care and that the people programming the show really cared about it. It is kind of a clip show, but there's still some really cool stuff in it. And it may not be Disney Dreams, but it's an enjoyable nighttime show. And you will have to get a spot somewhat early. They do tend to get spots early for that show, at least as of right now. I'm trying to think what else is worth noting real quick. What attraction? Yeah, Pirates. Did you agree? Was Pirates open when you went?
Pirates. Oh, it was amazing.
Yeah, I think it's the best of all of them, and I like the Tokyo one a lot, but Paris one is my favorite. Don't need a Captain Jack, so it's kind of, even though it's in Pirates of the Caribbean, which is cool. None of those are ever good. I hate Blue Bayou. Blue Bayou has been terrible the last couple times I went, and Captain Jack's was not a exception. Again, there is cool merchandise to buy. These really awesome prints are ads for the Disneyland Railroad for different lands, and all have like a little ticket with them also. These are great, attraction specific. There is cool stuff like this. So don't go in there thinking, oh, I'm not going to need any luggage room. I'm not going to buy anything. There will be cool stuff like that. Let's see. Yeah, we said Lights, Motors, Action was terrible. Toy Story Playland was kind of junky. I think we talked about that. I liked RC Racer a lot, though. I thought it was fun. You get some airtime. Wasn't the worst thing. I'm kind of sad we're not getting that. If we're going to have Toy Story Land, I would have liked to have had that. I want to quickly talk about the worst Disney attraction what I think is the worst Disney attraction on Earth. I think this is the worst Disney attraction on Earth. This is the Magic Carpet Ride in Paris. And you're probably saying, but Tom, this attraction exists elsewhere. That is true. It exists in the Magic Kingdom. It exists in Tokyo. This version is the worst for several reasons. Number one, that is just a big, ugly backdrop behind it. Number two, there's no water feature in it. It's just sand underneath. Number three, the maintenance was terrible. Neither the switch to make it go up and down, nor the switch to make our carpet pivot worked. Every one of them had a ton of paint chipped off of them. The queue was completely unthemed, and it's behind that wall. It's like a back alley behind that wall. It also made an ungodly noise as it went around. There's an observation deck that looks like it's out of Six Flags, which I'm standing on in this picture. It actually looks like the county fair, if there was an observation deck for a ride at the county fair. This is without a doubt. I don't care about Armageddon or Backlot Tour or anything else. I think this is the absolute worst Disney attraction on the face of the earth.
Indiana Jones coaster?
I loved it. It is beautiful. Why did you not like it?
They must have done a lot to it since I wrote it then.
Maybe. I understand it's an off-the-shelf coaster. It's not like the greatest thing I've ever seen. By the way, we ate in an American-style diner. Probably the best burger in Paris. It's really fun. It runs like a real diner. Like these people, these cast members are running it like I felt like I was at a diner in New Jersey. It was kind of interesting. And it was a good meal. I would eat here. I think it's a fun little experience. It's unique. There's only so many of these type of diners left in the world, and there's some in New York, and usually they're pretty inedible. But I don't know. I just thought it was a unique experience for a theme park. I hope it stays through the Marvel expansion of that land. Here, let's show this real quick. This is what I was talking about. This is the big unthemed area, the back lot. It's like, I know our back lot wasn't the most gorgeous theme park area ever built, but this park needs help, and it's going to get it. Thankfully, it's really, really bad. All right, we're gonna end at 11:15. I'm gonna quickly breeze through whatever I've got left for the next 5 minutes. I talked about Ratatouille already. What else we're gonna talk about here? Here's someone asked about the Mastercard thing. There were our Mastercard tickets to go see Mickey. I'll talk about Mickey and the Magician real quick. Mickey and the Magician is the best character stage show ever staged at a Disney park anywhere in the world. I truly believe that. It has dazzling special effects that you may not be able to completely figure out how they do, and I'm still trying to figure out a couple of them. It's got great music. It has live singing. It has live tap dancing. I was told Big Band Beat was going to be this amazing, life-changing thing when I went to Tokyo. I thought it was a good show. I was not blown away. Every way I was told I was going to be blown away by Big Band Beat in Tokyo, I felt I was blown away by Mickey and the Magician. You have to see this. You have to see it multiple times probably in your trip. Here's the Horizons vehicle, for whoever asked. There it is. Why that got sent to Paris at that point in time, I don't know. Also in the background, you may notice those gold statues of the guys from Hunchback. Those are indeed from our 50th castle, the Happiest Celebration on Earth castle, Walt Disney World. Why those were sent out there, I don't know. But they were. Tower there is the old California Adventure version, which I never liked, but it's there. So if you need to see it again. Again, there's going to be reviews of all this. Restaurant Hakuna Matata was one of the best counter service restaurants I've been to in any Disney park on Earth. Unique food. Great interior remind me of Sanaa and Jiko and Boma and all those, which was weird for a counter service. Really great, unique food. We'll have a review up eventually. Look at this park. This is the queue for Pirates. It's just unbelievable. Pirates was a highlight. More posters. What else we got here? Here, I'm going to show. This is a pretty shot of the Indy Ride. Look at that. Did it look that good when you went?
Not really, no.
No. I think they rebuilt it because it was built to be temporary originally. I think they had to go back through and build this with like actual cement or stone at some point, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. But it wasn't bad. Raging, I thought it was better than Raging Spirits, which is the Tokyo version. Maybe a little rougher, but I thought thematically a little more fun. There was some cool stuff out in the queue. That's really surprised me was the level of detail. I didn't think it was going to be Tokyo Disney Sea level, but detail wise, it absolutely was. Look at this shot. This is the Silver Spur Steakhouse. I love this. It's wonderful. We didn't get to eat there. We're going to eat there next time for sure. We just had way too many table service reservations. Look at this lamppost. It's a spur. It has the S for Silver Spur hanging underneath. There's a fully sculpted buffalo. This is every lamppost in the restaurant. Just unbelievable. Unbelievable. There's a Mr. Toad restaurant, which was really good. We'll have a review up of that. There's lots of fun art in there. All the buffets we did Plaza Gardens. That was a great buffet. Look at this. They still have the umbrella thing. I got to sing in the rain.
Did you eat in the there's a sort of Mediterranean Moroccan buffet in Adventureland?
It was solid, yeah. Agrabah Cafe or whatever. Yeah, it was fine. That was our first sit down. It wasn't bad, but I don't know that I'd go back again.
Right. I thought it was. I mean, my experience there was pretty mediocre.
The interior was beautiful. But,
it was so neat inside.
Apparently, it used to be shops and it was turned into a restaurant. So that was like an actual marketplace, and they turned it into dining. Kind of crazy. We talked about the walkthroughs. The Nautilus walkthrough is great. You see the squid attack and stuff. I love that. It's no match for the 20,000 Leagues attraction in Tokyo, but you know. It rained one night, and I thought Discoveryland in the rain just looked really great. And then we'll share anything I'm scrolling past. We will share in other content, so don't worry about it. Do we have any other questions in the chat before I start to wrap this up?
I think that's really about it.
Okay.
What was your favorite thing to do at the park? Let's end on that note.
What does that mean? Favorite thing to do?
I don't know. It's
like
just
favorite.
What they asked.
I met the guy who designed my shirt. So this is the guy from Imagineering who made those Hawaiian shirts. And he's even wearing the Tiki Room design, which I own on a shirt. But yeah. So we're walking through. We're actually going to walk in the park. So when the Walk in the Park episode comes out for Disneyland Paris, you're going to notice it cuts at one point because someone says, "Are you guys from America?" And it's this guy from Imagineering who's like, "That's my shirt." And so we took a picture. Favorite thing to do? I mean, just look at the detail. The park is insanely detailed. Pirates was my favorite ride, far and away. And there's a couple other attractions that are fun. But none of the other ones were like, oh, this is the best. I want to ride this a million times before we leave. I feel like Pirates was one of the few of those things. But the beauty of the park, I think, kind of makes up for it. There's just so much to see. And then the restaurants, I think like Bistro Chez Remy and Walt's, I will do probably every trip. They were just so fantastic. But favorite thing is walk around in the entertainment. The entertainment was top notch. Yeah. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
No. So I just want to say, so obviously I came on to talk about Tokyo, and then Tokyo is still, and I know you hate to hear it, you hear this from everybody. Tokyo was wonderful, and Tokyo is life-changing and really wonderful, and it is the absolute end-all be-all one to go to, at least at the current moment. Paris, because of that, then I had Paris next month. I was like, oh, I'm going to be underwhelmed. I don't think I was underwhelmed. I wish there was a little more substance. I wish there was a couple more headlining attractions, which they will exist. They're on that road, and it will happen. I think it's good that they're focusing on fixing these big classic rides, because Big Thunder looks great and Pirates look great. And if Phantom Manor is going to look as great as those two did, they are on the right path. And then the new stuff at Studios will be fantastic. But if you have the chance, I think Paris is absolutely worth going to. It's great. They're all, I mean, every resort has its own thing that it really excels at and is the reason to see it. They all have some quality that makes them all worth going to, whether they're even Walt Disney Studios Paris, that's the worst one. As a Disney fan, I think you will still find things to enjoy about it. In Paris, for me, it was a completely different experience from all the other ones, where it wasn't so much about rides as it was seeing the park and looking at how pretty it was, and and doing all this food wise. As much as people run down Paris for food, I was really blown away counter service and table service wise. There are bad places to eat. Colonel Hathie's Pizza Outpost is one of them. Blockbuster Cafe is certainly one of them. But there were counter services that I thought exceeded Florida and California counter services, many of them. And same with table service. I mean, table service, I think that's still the one thing Florida does better than anyone. But otherwise, I mean, Paris as a total package is not a bust. It's a very enjoyable thing. If you like entertainment and you like to just walk around the parks and snack and just look at insanely detailed environments, you'll have a wonderful time at Disneyland Paris. And Disney Village is garbage, and I'm glad they're spending a lot of money on it. That's really what I want to end on. It's how bad Disney Village was, and I'm glad that's getting attention, because I thought that was worse than Studios. I thought that had even less merit to exist than the bad parts of Studios, I think. It just was completely useless and very ugly and a horrible way to walk into the resort, because the original park is so beautiful that should not be the precursor to that. It's a bad way to get going. All right. Well, those of you who are WIGS members, we have a 30-minute post show coming up for you in a few moments. We'll be happy to take more questions, and I'll talk more about some of this stuff for a little bit. For the rest of you, thank you for watching. And we have lots. We now cover Disneyland Paris. We have reporters and such that write about Paris. So we have lots of Paris content still coming. We will be putting out all these reviews. We're actually just starting on the Tokyo reviews this week, so give us some time. But there will be Paris dining reviews and all sorts of stuff. There's lots of video content still going up. I know we've put up some entertainment and a couple of attractions, but there is, I have to edit them, but I have Pirates of the Caribbean from Paris, and I did some recording to make sure it exists forever. We've got some really good videos of the Backlot Tour and Armageddon, both coming as well. So they're well documented. So don't worry if you missed them. We'll try to make it feel like you were there. And then, of course, Walk in the Park, which we're currently showing the Tokyo episodes. We will have the Paris episodes directly following that. So we got a couple more days of the Tokyo shows. And then we have 9 episodes in a row of Disneyland Paris for you. So make sure you stay tuned for that. So thank you everybody for tuning in, and Wigs members, we'll see you on the post show.